Pete the cat loves color. Today we are going to use Pete the Cat storybooks for our inspiration. If you've ever read any Pete the Cat stories, you may have noticed that the stories are loaded with beautiful, brightly colored illustrations. The author and the illustrator love to use bright colors throughout the books. We're going to be using these storybooks as inspiration to make our own Pete the Cat artwork. We're going to be talking about both primary and secondary colors because Pete the cat loves color. Let's take a look at this color wheel. Now you might notice that yellow, red, and blue are connected by a large triangle. That's because yellow, red, and blue are the three most important colors. They are called the primary colors. The three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, make all the other colors of the color wheel. This color wheel shows primary, secondary, and tertiary colors. But for today, we're going to be focusing on primary and secondary colors. Taking a look at these color wheels, we see one color wheel that just has the primary colors. Now, when we combine the primary colors together, we can get the secondary colors. And each secondary color fits in between two primary colors that make it. For example, red and blue equals purple or violet. When we put red and blue together and we get the color violet has to go between red and blue in the color wheel. The same thing with yellow and blue. Yellow and blue equals green. So when we put green on the color wheel, we have to put green between yellow and blue. Red plus yellow equals orange. So when we mix red and yellow together, it makes orange. And that's why orange goes right in between red and yellow on the color wheel. But there are lots of different examples of color wheels. I am just showing you a few. So I don't want you to be confused thinking that there is only one right color wheel. But they all have one thing in common. They all show the relationship of the colors as being the same. Red, yellow, and blue are always the primary colors, and orange, green, and violet or purple are the secondary colors. They are always in the order of the rainbow. Today we will create a portrait of Pete the cat using only primary colors red, yellow, and blue. You may have noticed in Pete the Cat stories that most of the time Pete the Cat is shown as a blue kitty with bright yellow-orange eyes, and oftentimes there will be red on or around him. Pete the Cat loves primary colors. Let's talk about what a portrait is. You may have seen portraits in lots of places. Portraits can be photographs of people, but they can also be paintings and drawings. If you take a look at these two portraits, you might notice that they are both painted by artists who are showing either a human face with a head, neck, and shoulders, or a portrait of a pet. Today, we're going to be making a portrait of Pete the cat. Let's see how to get started making Pete the cat using primary colors.
Kindergarten and first grade friends, this is Mrs. Kelly, and we are making our Pete the Cat Loves Primary Colors. Now, Pete the Cat, in the stories, is a blue kitty with bright yellow-orange eyes, and typically there's also lots of red in the story. The illustrator loves to use primary colors when he makes pictures, so you see a lot of primary colors in Pete the Cat stories, like dark blue kitty, bright yellow eyes, blue steering wheel, red stoplights, even red and blue in the name of the book, Pete the Cat. So we're going to use Pete the Cat Loves Primary Colors to make ours. So for today, you're going to need your white sheet of paper and a pencil. If you have some type of a black marker for tracing or even a black crayon for tracing, that would be really helpful. Then we need red, yellow, and blue marker colors. Doesn't matter what kind of markers you use. And red, yellow, and blue crayons. So when you get all of those supplies together, you can restart the video and get started. Okay, so we are going to start Pete the Cat by going about halfway down on our paper and drawing a rectangle. Now, drawing a rectangle can be a little bit tricky, but here's the little technique I'm going to teach you. You can draw rectangles very, very lightly so that when you erase some of your lines, you won't see lots and lots of lines in the paper that you don't want. I want you to practice today doing this called sketching. Sketching is when you're making very light lines on your paper and you're not pressing hard at all. That is a very good artist technique to use. If you push down on your pencil to make a dark line, it might break your pencil, and also it will make it very hard to erase. If I push down on my pencil hard, I've got a nice rectangle, but then if I need to erase a line, I can still see it and it won't go away when I need it to. So we're going to use a very light sketch today to make our rectangle. Oh, you see my other Pete the Cat. I made one with his legs and feet too. So Pete the Cat starts his head with a rectangle, and this rectangle is going to be about as wide as 3 or 4 of our fingers put together, and you can use your hand as a way to measure that. So we're going to draw a rectangle right in the middle of our paper, and I want you to do that first, sketching one line here that's short, one line here that's short, and 2 long lines at the top and the bottom. That's going to start our Pete the Cat face. Making sure it's just wide enough to fit 3 or 4 of my fingers in. And when you're done with that, then we're going to draw an upside down triangle right underneath our rectangle. So I'm going to make sure my rectangle is long enough and then draw 2 diagonal lines right below my rectangle, sketching really lightly. That triangle is going to make Pete the Cat's chin. And when we're done with that triangle, then we can get rid of this bottom line of our rectangle. We're just going to take our eraser and erase that bottom line. That we don't need. Now we're going to do 2 triangles at the top of his head. So go right to the corner of your rectangles on each side, and I want you to draw a straight line up on each side, making sure that they're the same height so you have matching ears. And then after you draw 2 straight lines up, you're going to draw 2 diagonal lines going down. Now, diagonal lines can be tricky sometimes. Sometimes it might help for you to turn your paper and draw. That can be a little bit easier for some friends. Turn your paper and draw the diagonal line going down. And remember, if you sketch lightly and you make a line that you don't like, you can easily erase it and fix your mistakes. That's what Pete the Cat would do if he were trying to draw too. He wouldn't give up. He would keep going. So now I've got the basic parts of Pete the Cat's face. I've got his ears, I've got the main part of his face, and his chin. Now, boys and girls, I'm going to show you Pete the Cat has 2 really big eyes. And you might notice that those eyes are about the same shape as like a lemon or a football. And the way that you draw those shapes is with a curved line on the top and a really curved line on the bottom. So that's what we're going to do. Go about halfway down in your rectangle. So not up at the top, not all the way down at the bottom, but about halfway down on your rectangle. And we're going to make each eye big enough so that it almost touches the halfway point on his face. So if this is halfway, his eye is going to curve from one side of the rectangle to almost the halfway point on his face. So it's two really big curves. It takes a little bit of practice getting used to how to make that curve. Make it go back and forth. Make two really big curves. And then you're going to make an upside down curve. Now friends, sometimes making the upside down curve can be a little bit tricky. My suggestion is turn your paper upside down and then draw a little bit of a bigger curve, almost like a rainbow shape, right there on the bottom part of each eye. And if that's a little too difficult for you, you can get someone to help you with that. That's no problem. I'm going to go ahead and turn my paper back around, and then right down the middle of his face, I'm going to give him a little upside down triangle nose. Pete the cat has a pretty small nose. And then I'm going to add the pupils for his eyes. Now, most characters and people, when you draw eyes, you have three parts. You have the colored part, you have a black, and then sometimes a little bit of a white highlight. That's what we're going to do for Pete the cat. So we have the colored part already. Now we're going to draw two circles that are attached to the top part of his eye. So it's like a half circle. I'm going to put a half circle here and a half circle here that are kind of cut off by the top of his eye so you can't see all of it. That's going to be the black part, and then the white part, we're going to put a little half circle right in the middle on each eye. All right, so now we have his ears, his face, his eyes, and his nose. On Pete the cat, they don't really show a mouth. You can add a mouth if you want to, but kitty cats' mouths are usually pretty small. But we do want to add his whiskers. You can draw 3 or 4 curved long lines coming out each side of his face for the kitty cat's whiskers. That's usually how you see him in the storybook. And the long curved lines, whiskers coming right around the edge of his face. And now, since we're doing Pete the cat getting all dressed up, having his portrait taken, and we're drawing his portrait, we are going to give him just a neck and some shoulders and a bow tie. Because boys and girls, remember, portraits are usually just of your shoulders and your face and your neck. We're not going to draw the whole body today. So we're going to draw 2 curved lines for his neck, and then curve out and make his body a little bit wider. So 2 small curved lines for the neck, curve out and down for his body. It's okay if you draw straight down. That works too, because actually Pete the cat in the storybook has a very straight body. And then the last little detail I wanted to add on mine is a bow tie, because he's getting all dressed up for his picture. So I wanted to add a nice bow tie on the front, because Pete the cat loves primary colors and he's getting his bow tie on to get his picture taken or drawn by you. He looks like he's all ready. Now the next part is using all of our primary colors, and we're going to outline in black as well. So I'm going to take a black Sharpie. You can use Sharpie if your parents allow, or you can use a Crayola marker, or even just a black crayon. And we're going to give him a nice dark outline around his face. Okay, once you are done outlining the whole face, if you have any pencil lines you don't need, you're going to erase them. So I'm going to make sure that all of these pencil lines on his face that I don't need like the top part of my rectangle and the line I drew down the middle of his face. Any scribble scrabble lines that I made that need to go away, I'm going to get rid of all those before I color. That's a really great habit to get into when you're an artist. Since we're doing primary Pete the Cat, we are making sure that we're using the red, yellow, and the blue. And Pete the Cat is normally blue. But if you wanted to make Pete the Cat red, you certainly could do that. I'm going to go ahead and follow what the book shows me, but you can make your own choices. I'm going to color his eyes yellow. And then I'm going to color his body blue. And I want to do his bow tie bright red. And one of the fun things that you can do when you are done coloring Pete the Cat is you can add a background. Now you could use primary colors in your background too, but you could also use other colors as well. I wanted you just to focus on primary colors for Pete the Cat today though, because I wanted you to learn what the primary colors were and how to use them. So I'm going to take time here and outline with my blue marker and then color my big spaces in blue crayon because I don't want Pete the Cat to be too dark, and markers look really good for outlining and sometimes they're too dark for coloring. And I'm going to speed up the video so you can see what it looks like when I'm done coloring. So you can see that I'm finished with my Pete the Cat. I did, just like I said I was going to do, yellow for the eyes, blue for the body, red for the bow tie. And then I really wanted to do something very cool in the background, and I used a ruler and made some nice big black lines and broke it up into shapes. That is something that you definitely could do, and coloring your shapes with red, blue, and yellow. You do not have to do it that way. You can come up with your own primary color background to make your own splash too. This was just something I thought would look very interesting. I hope that you love making your primary color Pete the Cat portraits today and have an amazing time making your art.